This is hypocrisy we must name without fear. When an African leader is accused, indictments are issued overnight, sanctions are imposed immediately, military interventions justified under the banner of international law. However, when Israel starves children in Gaza or the United States, and its allies invade nations and topples governments, the same institutions suddenly discover restraint, complicity, and delay. As the legal fraternity of Africa, you cannot accept this double standard. You must be bold enough to create alternative and fair systems of accountability that do not bend to imperialist interests. If the so-called international community is unwilling to deliver justice in real time, then Africa must advance its own courts, its own tribunals, its own instruments of solidarity and protection. Just as we build liberation movements when colonialism denied us freedom, so too must we build new legal institutions when the existing ones fail us. In Cuba, for over 60 years, the United States has imposed an economic blockade in contravention of international law, including the principle of non-interference and the sovereign right of nations to choose their social and economic system. Despite this, Cuba has demonstrated a profound commitment to human solidarity, sending doctors across the globe, including to Africa, welcoming Africans into their classrooms and participating in the liberation of the oppressed. Cuba never sent their soldiers anywhere to kill anyone. Instead, they send their doctors all over to go and save life. The tragedy of Haiti is one of historical injustice. Haiti's revolution was first declaration of black freedom in the modern world, yet it was punished with centuries of economic sabotage and enforced debt. Contrary to any principle of justice, today Haiti suffers from foreign interference, the denial of sovereignty, and the imposition of external governance. International law demands reparation, debt cancellation, and the withdrawal of foreign forces so that Haiti can govern itself in dignity. We have seen DRC not experiencing peace because of its mineral resources. We must stand with DRC and demand that there must be permanent peace in DRC and everywhere else in Africa. Because DRC without peace, it will never experience economic growth. I thank you.
You know, respecting leaders is a good thing, because that is what is right. Once you have given people the privilege to serve you, you give them respect. But respect must be earned. Many times in my own country, in Kenya, I see the individuals, some of the individuals that we elect into public office, some are fine, but some are not. In fact, most are not. And in my rural village, they elect some semi-illiterate individual who everybody knows is semi-illiterate, and everybody knows he is not wise. But the day after his election, when he attends a forum such as this, those who invite him to speak will say, let so-and-so whom we elected yesterday share his wisdom with us. And I want to assure you that there is no magic in the ballot box. If you are a dunderhead, the mere fact that you have been elected does not convert you into anything. You just remain an elected dunderhead. And Africa has no shortage of dunderheads who are leading her in the wrong direction. The direction of disunity.
I'm watching on television, and I find our leaders who should have been working together all along to address these problems that commonly affect their countries wait until they are invited to go to Europe to sit there and just It's like they are made to sit down and address their problems. Why does anybody wait for that? What image does it even give about us, about Africa? In fact, the image it gives is that we are not there to even address these problems. We are there for a photo opportunity. We are happy to sit there in Paris with the President of France and just talk about addressing problems. It doesn't make sense that our leaders cannot get themselves together to address problems affecting our people. It doesn't make sense. I think there is that serious problem. African leaders, we don't need to be invited anywhere to go and address our problems without first inviting ourselves to come together to tell each other the actual truth that we must tell each other about our serious problems.
I have only come here for 5 minutes. I have come as a president of the Republic of Uganda, and also I am speaking as a great man who is the conqueror of the British Empire. I wanted to confirm to you, I have liberated my country economically, and I am economically strong, and that is why I said I uprooted the British imperialism from Uganda, and Uganda is now pure Africa. We, Africa, we have been weak because we allow ourselves, our brothers, to go and invite some country. But if the whole country in the continent of Africa can show an excellent example, like our beloved leader, His Majesty the King Hassan of Morocco, assisting President Mobutu when he is invaded. This is some point which Africa can prevent to bring in the other troops from outside. But some other countries have been forced to get European forces into Africa because they tried to ask some African countries, they don't want. Some African countries were the ones who are confusing ourselves because we train guerrillas against our country. We force government to be in that. We wanted that particular liberation leader to be the president of that particular country, and that have complicated everything in Africa.
So what am I saying? For example, let me give you another example. We have been to US Africa. We have been to some other engagement with other countries. Now we have been invited for Russia-Africa Summit. We have made a decision, very respectfully as heads of state in Africa, that any engagement with other partners must be an engagement of equals. And for it to be meaningful, if we are going to meet the president of a country, we have organized ourselves that the Troika is going to represent Africa. The chair, the current chair, the past chair, the chair that is coming, and the heads of our regional economic commissions, about 6-7 people. But what happens continuously? When others want to engage with us, they don't want to deal with the Troika. They want to invite 50 heads of state. So we go to a meeting, just explain to me what kind of outcome you expect where 50 heads of state are sitting. Everybody is asked for speak to 1.5 minutes. You speak to for 1.5 minutes. What kind of engagement are you going to get? You're going to get nothing, right? The best that you get is photographs. That's it. Precisely. You get these photographs, they normally line us up somewhere, crowd of 50 heads of state. And that's all we come home with, because there isn't time to engage any serious country that wants to engage with Africa, must respect first our architecture. If we have said we are going to be represented by the Troika, why are you inviting 50 people unless you want to sabotage the whole discussion? And if you can't respect our own rules, it is a sign of lack of goodwill. I mean, you must, so that when we engage, if we have a smaller group of 5 people, then you can have a meaningful conversation. And we can have a meeting of equals. But here you are, you represent 200-300 million people. You have a guy here who represents 10 people. You have another guy who represents 10 million people. Then that conversation becomes, and some of the time, the most unfortunate thing is that some of the people who invite us to these meetings tell us, if you don't come, there will be consequences. So, all of us are forced to go to a meeting that has no meaningful outcome because of blackmail. This is not right, good people. This is not okay. So, I have written to my brother who was here the other day that this time round, any other invitation, it must respect the rules of our continent. We have said any meaningful engagement, anybody who wants us to take them seriously, they must first respect our architecture. If they want a fruitful engagement, they should engage our continent in a manner that we can effectively represent our people and we can effectively discharge our mandate and articulate our issues, not in a crowd. We want to be effective. We want to engage. So if you are one head of state and you want to engage all these people, surely are you sincere? In engaging in a crowd, because some of these good people, they want to avoid any commitments. They want to avoid any meaningful engagement. They just want the baraza and okay, pictures, and then we go. Dinner, and then... I mean, good people, we have food in our countries, at least. We can eat at home. The Africa Union reform agenda must therefore become a priority this session. And you must, members of parliament, you must interrogate and conduct the process to ensure that structurally the roles of the Bureau, Summit, committees, regional caucuses, Secretariat, and Commission are rationalized to give Africa a fit-for-purpose continental governing body worth its name. To do so, this Honorable Assembly must urgently review the funding arrangements to ensure that Africa Union budgets are financed primarily by members and secondarily by external partners. In turn, this will require a mechanism where Africa Union member states are up to date with their contributions with regard to all our commitments. As matters stand, our most core mandates depend on the goodwill of development partners. Just imagine, including critical peace and security matters, that our own Peace and Security Fund is funded by development partners more than is funded by us as heads of state and countries. Good people, this needs to change. Africa's solutions must look like solutions. And in principle, they ought to emanate from us. How do we say we are providing African solutions if it is funded by development partners? It's a fallacy. It means we have no capacity to provide Africa solutions if it is being funded by others. A case in point, we have a situation in Sudan. The generals in Sudan are bombing everything. They are bombing roads, they are bombing bridges, they are bombing hospitals, they are destroying airports, using military hardware bought by African money. Just imagine. We need to tell those generals to stop the nonsense. Yeah. Military capacity is for fighting criminals and terrorists. It is not for fighting children and women and destroying our own infrastructure. But as it is, we have no capacity to stop this nonsense in our own continent because our own Peace and Security Fund is funded by others. We have a problem. But I'm telling you, we are going to correct this problem. It is us to do it. Let me also tell you that I think we're going to have a new, and we need your help. You know, we need your support. You must take up your role. You know, you must take up your role and make sure that our executive, the people running the Africa Union, are held to account. With this vision in mind, I sought and was privileged to receive the approval of the African Heads of State and Government Summit to have the honor of hosting the Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi this year in September. This will be a major gathering of African and global leaders to deliberate and consolidate a clear African position and clear African voice as we project our agenda in the global stock-take engagements and the build-up to COP28. The summit also provides an opportunity to highlight and forge consensus on the modalities of unlocking Africa's vast potential to positively impact the climate agenda and rally the world to tap into the numerous opportunities that Africa presents towards global net zero. This will not be another morning summit where we are mourning about our situation. We are going to boldly tell the world we will contribute positively to a solution, and we have what it takes. I invite you all to Nairobi to join us at that summit and to take part in that broader journey and vision. For Africa to hold meaningful discussions with global partners, I have told you, Africa heads of state and governments have resolved that partnership summits by external parties shall be reviewed with a view to providing an effective framework for African Union partnerships. And we are going to work together in that manner. Another proposition I want to make to you is the United Nations. This is an important forum for transacting global affairs in diplomacy, peace, security, and trade, among others. But Africa, a continent of 1.2 billion people and a GDP of close to $2 trillion, finds itself disadvantaged by the current configuration of the UN Security Council, a configuration that was established 80 years ago, before the Second World War. But the world has since changed tremendously, we all know. Countries that had not become self-determining have since attained independence and are making a huge contribution to their people, continents, and the world. It is therefore time to reform the UN Security Council and change it from an exclusive club of 5 permanent members to a more representative global council that works for the interests of the whole world. We have said Africa must have, at the minimum, 2 permanent seats at the Security Council. And by the way, we are being very modest. Yeah, we are being very modest because we are understanding. We must therefore work together to make our continent prosperous, for that is what it deserves, and our people now and generations to come, and improve our relations with global business and global investments. One final thing that I know many of you have talked about Paris. Yes, we will be going to Paris because we want to occupy every space. We are going to be consistent. We are going to be coherent. We are going to be audible until there is no place to hide. Yeah? Until the conferences are stopped. Otherwise, we will make them noisy, we will make them messy, and there will be consequences. If we are not heard, we are refusing to stay on the margins anymore. Yeah? We want to be at the table. Because we are told the risk of not being at the table is that you could be in the menu. Do you understand? So, we are going to occupy every space. And we have been gentlemen for far too long. We are now going to appropriate our place because we have a contribution to make. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to me. I don't take it for granted. And God bless you.
So the president of Kenya, that is Dr. William Ruto, is complaining about African leaders getting 1 to 2 minutes to speak in global meetings, and is complaining about a situation whereby 50 African leaders or presidents sit for photos instead of a dialogue, And of course, people see this as a symbol of humiliation of Africa. Another one is that we are going to talk about selective justice, whereby Julius Malema, the opposition leader in South Africa, he is actually telling people outside there, or is complaining about double standards in global justice system, whereby Western countries act as a moral police, but at the end of the day, they ignore their own actions. So this resonates heavily with the people across the world, whereby there is rules for Africa, but freedom for the West. Again, we will talk about Africa's biggest problem in African leadership itself. And this is where it even gets interesting and controversial. In this case, we will talk about Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, complaining or criticizing African leaders who don't fix their own countries and prefer attending conferences in Europe, America, Instead, we'll go back to the history again and talk about Idi Amin speech at the OAU in 1978, whereby he said that Africa should control their own resources and reject foreign dominance. Patrice Lumumba also said that, we should get rid of this colonialism, and of course his speech became a symbol of speaking truth to power till death. So guys, there is something that is happening right now, and I can tell you that across Africa, leaders and analyzers, thinkers, politicians, they are starting to say something that many people believed that the world doesn't want it to be amplified, not because they are lies, but because they are too uncomfortable. They're the truth, actually. And today we are going to talk about some of the most powerful speeches from African leaders and presidents, revolutionaries, and also intellectuals. And I don't know, like, a simple question that I would love to ask you: are these voices exposing the truth? What do you think? Or are they, what's your feel? Are they just like shifting blame? Kindly let me know in the comment section below. So the president of Kenya, that is Dr. William Samoei Arap Ruto, at the Pan-African Parliament, he did not hold back. He described a situation whereby African leaders, they travel across the world only to be given 1 to 2 minutes to speak. And I want you to think about that, because he also talked about 50 presidents in one room, but given a minute like each of them. And it was like, what kind of serious discussion can happen within 1 to 2 minutes? He even said that these meetings, most of the time they end up being nothing more than photo sessions, and that, of course, it's deep, because what is actually saying is that Africa is being invited, but Africa is not respected. So I can tell you that, of course, not everyone believes the problem is just external, but at the end of the day, things get to be complicated, and this is what we really need to understand, because the West doesn't want you to know about this. And the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, also told African leaders that, you need to fix your own problems. Don't wait for meetings abroad for you to go and be told how to fix it. So he actually flipped the narrative. He criticized African leaders, those who actually spend more time flying to across the world, instead of spending more time trying to fix their countries, their people. And of course, the message, it's hard, and it's very true, by the way, because now at this point the blame will shift from the West is the problem to African leadership is the problem, which is the truth. And of course, if you look at, I don't know what to think about that, because some people will be like, the president is actually ignoring global power imbalances. Others will be like, the president Paul Kagame is telling us the truth, and we should look into that. PLO Lumumba also talked about respect, and that it is earned, not demanded. So probably I can tell you that PLO Lumumba is this guy that always comes on his YouTube channel and speaks about the world, the leadership, and everything. And he actually resonates with so many people, and his videos normally get thousands and thousands of views, So his message is short and clear. Africa must stop begging for respect. Respect is not given, it is earned. So he called out on weak leadership, he called out on lack of discipline, and he called out on leaders who are not even attentive when Africa speaks, or African leaders speak, or leaders that represent Africa speak. So there was this special moment where he highlighted when African leaders are distracted when their own reps at the UN General Assembly are speaking for them and trying to air out their grievances. But then when it comes to the President of America, they're very attentive, and that thing, it termed it as something psychological, and it needs to be fixed, because according to him, when actually when your voices, when people that are representing you are speaking, you need to sit down, stay attentive, listen to them, and you need to correct on that. So Julius Malema, we all know him as the opposition leader in South Africa. And for him, he always comes out, he always brings fire, he always lights fire on these streets of uh, YouTube, TikTok, everywhere. And most of the time, he openly calls out what many people whisper, and that is global justice is not neutral at all. And I don't know what you think about that. Probably you can comment down below in the comment section. So, according to him, some countries get punished and others get to be protected, and the justice is not applied equally. And that is with the reason as to why many people love him. He speaks the truth to the power, to the colonizers. And actually, most people now believe that the system is not fair at all. So back in 1978 at OAU summit, Idi Amin talked about power, independence, and contradictions. And back then, his speeches were bold, controversial, and unapologetic, and they still resonate up to date. Even today, as I speak, it still resonates well when you listen, and when you listen to his speeches and try to interpret. For him, he pushed for full independence. He pushed for African control of resources, like Africa should control its own resources. He pushed for rejection of foreign influence into the land of the African people. But then the contradiction is that while he was actually speaking against all this, his own leadership was kind of, contradicting with what he was doing, because according to the books and what people are being told is that he was widely criticized because of some of the things that he did against the human rights, that he chasing away the Indians and taking away their shops forcefully, telling the British to go back. So also when we talk about Patrice Lumumba and his legacy, I mean, Patrice Lumumba is this guy that still is being talked about in up to date, because his speeches resonates like 100%. So if you look at African leadership and the speeches, it's Patrice Lumumba's speeches that goes in cycles, and it comes back to him. And his independence speech was not just polite; it was raw and unfiltered. This guy exposed colonial brutality. This guy talked about what the West should do right in front of the world. And of course, that moment changed everything. Remember that was back in before even most African countries gained independence, and all what he did was to show that speaking the truth with power comes at a cost, because later on, what happened to him, he was actually dissolving acid in Belgium. So many bad things was done to him. Anyway, I don't know what you think about this particular video, and I don't know if you also think that the West is really silencing Africa, or is it that Africa is struggling to lead itself? Which is which, guys? Probably you could tell us in the comment section below. Is it that the West is silencing us, or is it that Africa is struggling to lead itself, or is it both? Anyway, Africa is navigating, it's really trying, it's really trying to balance on the external pressures, internal weaknesses, fight for identity. And of course, these speeches, they are so powerful. They are signals. It's a speech. There are speeches that tell us that something is shifting. And now I want to hear from you guys. Do you think these leaders are exposing the truth or just avoiding responsibility? What do you think, guys? I'll really appreciate it if you keep us engaging. I'll see you same time every day. Expect a video, okay? I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.